Hello, you're watching the Les Nouvelles Sprint video series on the theology of the body. This episode is dedicated to Audience 15. We are your hosts. I am Jeremy Hossotter.
And I'm Guillermo Moreno.
All right, so in this audience, we are continuing the themes of the previous two audiences by examining man within the dimension of gift and the spousal meaning of the body. And so let's go ahead and begin with a little bit of review. So the revelation and the original discovery of the spousal meaning of the body consists of two facts. That you have this presenting of man as male and female in the whole, in their entire reality and truth. And this whole reality of truth is referring to the body, our sex as masculine and feminine. And then this is done with a full freedom from all constraint of body and sex. So our person, while we are embodied beings and by nature have this spousal attribute, we are not dominated by it, right? We have a freedom over our bodies and over um, the conjugal act. And the second kind of main point that JP2 wants to re-emphasize is the reality of the body from the beginning. And this reality, again, from the beginning, that is a key phrase referring to the first three chapters of the book of Genesis. And these these parts of the book of Genesis emphasize the fact that the body in its reality includes the concept of sex, that is, it's either masculinity or femininity, this aspect of fruitfulness and procreation, and the spousal attribute, which is the power to express love. And now, Guillermo,
Mhm. Yep.
you mentioned in the previous audience Gaudium et Spes 24, Article 3, and sure enough, here it is, or paragraph 3, I should say. So John Paul II cited this audience. In fact, he's going to refer to it repeatedly, so it's worth quoting in whole. Would you like to do that, Guillermo?
Yeah. Indeed, the Lord Jesus, when he prayed to the Father that all may be one, as we are one, opened up vistas closed to human reason, for he implied a certain likeness between the union of the divine persons and the unity of God's sons in truth and charity. This likeness reveals that man, who is the only creature on earth which God willed for itself, cannot fully find himself except through a sincere gift of himself. End quote.
Awesome. So there are two facts, or I guess two truths, we should say, that JP2 is going to emphasize. We'll underline the first one in blue here. The teaching that the only creature God willed for itself is man. And the second is, I'm underlining purple here, this idea that man cannot find himself except through this sincere, disinterested gift of himself. Now, Gaudium et Spes is one of the 16 documents of the Second Vatican Council. It is what has been called a pastoral constitution. If you're interested about what is the meaning of a pastoral constitution, we do have some articles dedicated to that. There, we have an essay on the theological priority of the dogmatic constitutions. So if you're really interested in studying how to interpret a this pastoral constitution, then that would be a good essay to look into. We also have another essay on the meaning of pastoral in Vatican II. And you can find those on our website under Vatican II articles. So these two truths you need to keep in the back of your mind as we progress through this audience. They are the foundation, and John Paul II is going to be looking at the biblical text of Genesis 2 to come to, I guess, the biblical grounds for these two truths of Vatican II. All right. Guillermo, did you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't.
Okay. All right. So the gift of self and freedom. Now, in order for someone to give or gift him or herself, he or she has to have the freedom to do so. You have to be free. You have to have ownership of that thing in order to give it. I can't give you a cookie unless I actually have the cookie. In this case, I cannot give myself if I do not possess myself. And so this implies then the concept of self-mastery, or we think self-dominion, that is like ruling over oneself. So self-mastery then is indispensable in order to become a gift for another. This being naked without shame that we read in Genesis 2 then is a biblical text for the discovery of gift, the spousal meaning of the body, and this freedom found within self-mastery. So the first man and the first woman had self-mastery over themselves and their bodies in order to gift each other to the other and form that original unity, to form that communion of persons. And now we need to kind of look at this concept of interior freedom. And we think about it in two ways. First, as this freedom from sex and drive. So, sex, that's referring to not the conjugal act, but the masculinity or femininity of the human body. And then drive, referring to the sex drive. So, all animals have this instinctual drive to procreate, which is a good thing because it allows the continuation of the different species. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all the different kinds of animals. But on the other hand, when it comes to man, he's not dominated by this um, instinct to procreate like animals are. And then the second meaning of interior freedom is the freedom to give oneself as a gift. And both concepts imply that the first man, first woman enjoyed this whole self evident truth of man that is revealed by God through mystery creation. So, in other words, the first man, first woman enjoyed the whole truth about man, the fact that he and she are created as persons destined to gift each other into this reciprocal communion of persons. That the first man, first woman are that while having a body and being a member of the visible creation cannot be defined in terms of the visible creation. That while we are we're a living being, we cannot be identified strictly with animals. Um, Yermo,
Hmm.
did you have anything you'd like to add about self and freedom?
Just highlighting on the word freedom, it what does come to mind is the opposite, slavery. So a gift of self can't happen if there is that lack of freedom, or in other words, if there's that slavery. And another word, slavery to what? Well, I would like to incorporate one word, one synonym for self-mastery, and that's self-control. Here's the thing, if we're slaves to our passions, and in this case, the sex drive, then we're not really free if we don't have that self-control. If we cannot say no, then we don't have freedom. And if we don't have freedom, then we can't actually give the gift of self.
Yeah, I like that. Just taking this analysis of JP2s
Hmm.
and taking the negative of it and saying, well, what does that look like?
Sure.
And that is certainly something JP2 is going to do in the future, but it's good to keep those thoughts in mind as we read this. And just the concept of, well, if you don't have freedom, you're a slave. And then the concept of a slave means something else controls you or has ownership of
Yes.
you.
Hmm.
And that's an important point because if something else has ownership over you, you cannot give yourself by
Sure.
definition because you do
Absolutely.
not own yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's part of the beauty of this theology of the body is that it shows us how to retake control of ourselves through the truth of ourselves, our bodies, our masculinity and femininity. And it's the truth of the gospel. But I don't want to reveal too much yet. Very tempting, huh?
Yeah, it is.
All right, moving on. The spousal meaning of the body. So we have our two fundamental truths from Gaudium et Spes, from the document of Vatican II, that man is the only creature God willed for his own sake. And being willed in this manner, God can only, or I mean, man can only find himself through the disinterested gift of self. And with these two truths, JP2 now wants to develop his analysis. So, the spousal meaning of the body is inscribed into the original condition of the first man and first woman, and in the meaning of original unity. Did you say something, Guillermo?
No,
Oh, okay. Thought I might have heard something over there. I wasn't
no,
certain.
no.
Okay. And this freedom and gift allows man and woman to find each other according to the truth that man willed, or I mean, that God willed man and woman for each own sake. So the fact that, so freedom, this dynamism of self mastery, freedom, and gift allows each man and woman to discover this truth of Vatican II that God has willed the man for his own sake, that God has willed the woman for her own sake. And it allows us to live according to these truths. So this implies a what JP2 calls a welcoming. Okay? So the man welcomes the woman welcomes the man, and each welcomes the other as being willed by God for his and for her own sake. This being willed for his sake, for her sake, is based on the fact that man and woman are made in the image and likeness of God.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to add that that presupposes a freedom that the rest of creation just simply doesn't have. In other words, and I believe earlier in an earlier episode, I had mentioned that man is aware that he's aware. Animals
Right.
don't,
Right.
and animals just don't have that reason, that capacity. Yes, for consciousness, um, not to be confused with cognition or consciousness in the alert sense of the word, but rather having that interior voice that alerts us about good and evil given to us by God. And humans can just make choices through
Right.
the faculties of our reason. So far as we were capable of doing that, we are striving for our good in a way just unlike the rest of creation, in a way that does specify that man is the only creature that God willed for his own sake.
Yeah, I like that.
Hmm.
I think another way of putting it is man is the only kind of creature that can know the truth about reality and its goodness and act according to that goodness.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Whereas the rest of creation just tries to survive and reproduce and stuff.
right. Yeah, it's at the instincts of
Yes.
a or it's at the level of instincts, drives,
Hmm. Hmm.
or just the basics of animal psychology, sensation and whatnot.
Yes, and we cannot be reduced to our instincts.
Right. No matter what the evolutionary biologist says about man, just that theory of reducing man to strictly materialism.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, those are all good things to keep in mind. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it also means then animals don't have the spousal meaning of their bodies. Something to think about. Also means that animals are incapable of a communion of persons because they do not have the ability to gift themselves because they do not have self-mastery by definition being an animal. Um, let's see. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on to that, Guillermo?
No, I don't.
Okay, let's continue on then. Let's see here. The meaning of the body. All right. The meaning of the body. The body reveals the masculinity and femininity, the value and beauty, and this value and beauty is something beyond just the physical level of sexuality. And let's see here. This value and beauty, we can say, is the completion of the meaning of the body. And JP2 wants to focus on the term meaning, and he kind of gives two ideas or concepts to it. One is the power to express love, through which man becomes gift. And secondly, this power for affirmation to live the fact that the other person is willed for his or her own sake by God. And now we can tie into this um, concept of affirmation, what we've said before, this kind of welcoming function. So when we welcome the gift, right, this affirmation includes us welcoming the gift of the other person. And this through reciprocity creates the communion of persons. This affirmation of the person takes into account all of the body's exteriority, nakedness as masculine or feminine. And so we see here kind of a sort of a meditation upon the text of Gaudium et Spes and the fact that God willed only the human creature for his own sake. And we see JP2 connecting that with the revelation of Genesis 2. Are you still there, Guillermo?
Yep.
Okay. Did you have any further insights into these concepts of the meaning of the body and affirmation?
No.
All right. Let's see here. Ah, I was wondering where they were. I have two quotes here. Oh, that's awkward. We got a typo here. Let's delete this typo. I must have been tired making this. Yeah, let's delete that. Proof no one's perfect. All right. I'll go ahead and read that first quote. So, quote, on the one hand, this meaning points to a particular power to express the love in which man becomes a gift. What corresponds to this meaning, on the other hand, is power and deep availability for the affirmation of the person. That is literally the power to live the fact that the other, the woman for the man and the man for woman, is through the body someone willed by the Creator for his own sake. That is someone unique and unrepeatable, someone chosen by eternal love. End quote. It's just such a powerful statement, right? We just talked about the concepts contained in this quote, but it's good to rehear them in JP2's own words about the meaning of the body, right? And this power to express love, right? It's this recognition that the other person who is willed for his or her own sake is someone that is unique, unrepeatable, someone that's chosen from eternity by divine love that's placed there before you.
I know we can say, yes, every soul um exists for eternity and is a very unique every soul that's in it's is its own unique soul. But we can say the same thing about the body, and this is the nature of the body. The body, this is what it does. It affirms the person. And in light of the spousal meaning of the body, then it's that complete yes of one person to another and vice versa.
Yeah. It's that yes to that person in their uniqueness and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
unrepeatability. Yeah. Do you want to read the next quote, Guillermo?
Yes. The revelation and discovery of the spousal meaning of the body explain man's original happiness, and at the same time, they open the perspective of his own earthly history, in which he will never withdraw from this indispensable theme of his own existence. Interesting, because I do feel a strong distinction between the words revelation and discovery. So on the one hand, discovery seems to kind of come first insofar as man has this awareness, this consciousness that he or she learns, is able to process the nature of things. Revelation, in a just for lack of other words, builds on that. Of course, what is revealed is something that we couldn't quite have encompassed on our own, but rather it's shown to us, explained to us by God. And it's fascinating how both of these things happen at the same time through the body.
Yeah, that does raise an interesting point about the, I guess, what is this kind of revelation that JP2 is referring to, right?
Hmm.
And I think we can kind of tie in the idea of kind of natural revelation. Just thinking
Yes.
like Romans 1, how it talks
Mm,
about we can have a natural revelation that God exists just through our reason, through our experience with reality and the world as created. And that implies that there has to be a creator. Perhaps it's something like that. Just this experience and encounter with the body and its spousal meaning. Hmm.
awesome.
Though you do have revelation in a more direct sense because they are in a friendship with God, right?
Yes.
You do have this this idea that God walks in a garden with them, right? And it seems
Yeah.
like it's something regularly. There's a friendship going on there. So that I guess would just say that's something worthy of future meditation upon.
Okay.
Unless you have more to say, Guillermo.
I don't.
Okay. Yeah. It's good to think about what how is revelation being I guess what is the role of revelation in this case? All right, continuing. Oh, we gotta get rid of our doodle. All right, goodbye, typo. All right, so looking to the future. So the last paragraph of this audience is kind of JP2 again looking to the future, where he's going to talk briefly about the man in history or historical man and the contrast between that and the original experience of the first man, first woman, and the original innocence. So the beatifying function, the spousal meaning of the body, is going to differ in history than before before the first man, first woman entering the state of original sin. And just to be clear, the term beatifying is referring to happiness, not like beautifying, making something beautiful. And if you want further clarification about beatifying, I highly recommend you check out the previous episode on Audience 14, wherein JP2 talks about the beatifying function of the spousal meaning of the body. And let's see. So in history, the spousal meaning of the body has become distorted, and this is going to be due to the effects of original sin, but more on that later. However, JP2 wants to bring to our attention that there's still a continuity that remains at the deepest level of man. And this deepest level is the fact that man is made in the image and likeness of God. And let's see. Now, the consciousness of the spousal meaning of the body and gift, this is a point that JP2 has already made before, consist, constitutes as the fundamental component of human existence in the world. That's something that everyone who listens to this or has read Theology Body should take some time somewhere quiet and just really think about what that implies and means for one's own existence. And something that we were just talking about, JP2 again affirms, is that the term spousal or the adjective and all the associated concepts with spousal only has meaning within the realms of persons. Spousal only applies to persons. And then in case you, I don't know, if you haven't been thinking about it, an obvious question for Catholics at the very least is the question of the celibacy as a vocation, because up to this point, all we've been talking about is what's going to become JP2's analysis of marriage. And so that raises a important question about celibacy. And here we get a first reference to this problem of how to interpret celibacy. And JP2 just simply says that celibacy as a vocation highlights these same truths about man. So the same truths about the spousal meaning of the body and everything else we have said still applies. That raises a lot of interesting questions that we'll have to examine later when the relevant audiences come up. Do you have anything you would like to add, Guillermo?
No, I don't.
All right. In that case, we are going to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. If you have been enjoying our content, please subscribe to our social media such as YouTube, share our content, and please consider making a financial donation either through PayPal or by becoming a Patreon member. Um, your financial support goes towards our website maintenance and purchasing of books so we can continue hosting and creating great content for you. Speaking of website, on it we have many articles and a podcast. Guillermo, do you have more details about the podcast?
Yes, you can find us on buzzsprout.com and on Buzz. You can listen to us on Buzzsprout itself or use it to refer to other podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, wherever your favorite, whatever your favorite podcast platform is. We are most likely on it because we are on many podcast platforms.
Yeah, we're on about 20 different platforms, so you should be able to find us wherever you stream your podcast. And in case you need to find all those social media goodies, check us out at lenovelesprit.com/subscribe. We put links to just about everything there. Um, did you have anything else, Guillermo?
I just want to ask all our listeners to keep us and our ministry in your prayers.
Yes, please pray for us. All right, with that, I'm going to say goodbye.
God bless everyone.